Hey there guys, we're taking a look at Ghost Recon Wildlands running on the AMD Ryzen 5 5500U. Now the game is currently running at 25 watts at 1080p with the lowest in-game graphical settings with the built-in benchmark, and of course it is running at DirectX 11. The performance that we're getting here is not great at 1080p, but it's not completely terrible. The 16 gigabytes of RAM for sure is being a lifesaver here, because right now, while we're not utilizing a lot of RAM, if we were just at 8 gigabytes here, this would be a significant chunk of the system that things would start to stutter. Instead, we have plenty of headroom right now. But 1% lows that are below 20 are really not going to be that great of an experience, and overall the 30 FPS average is kind of hard to maintain for the most part. You can see the frame times are really just waves right now, and you really don't want it looking like the ocean. So if we drop things down to 720p, this is finally when we start to get into far more playable territory here. The 1% lows now being comfortably above 30 FPS, almost getting close to 40, and getting an average that is in the 50s is pretty much going to mean that you're going to get a relatively smooth experience, and you're actually going to be able to play the game like this. Is it going to look amazing? No, it's definitely not. And it's definitely not going to still play amazing, but it's more than usable, and honestly, you can get away with finishing the entirety of the game like this. Just don't be too picky about how the visuals end up looking. It's definitely not repulsive or anything like that, but it's definitely not going to be a very good looking game. This game could actually look very nice if you can actually run it at the higher graphical settings, but this is about as good as we can get it to look visually without things really going to shit. But let's look at what the gameplay is like, and the gameplay that you're going to be seeing here at first is the game running at 15 watts. Now, I'm just showing the lower TDP just for you people out there that really cannot actually get this to run at higher TDPs. Overall, the experience playing like this is still going to be an above 30 FPS average as long as you're at 720p, and the 1% lows are going to be above 30, so you're going to actually be able to play this like this if you have just 15 watts of TDP and don't have the headroom to actually raise it. But if you want to maximize the performance, you can of course raise things a little bit, but it won't give you a huge boost. It's really only going to give you a few more FPS. Let me show you that right now. As you can see, the 25 watts is pretty much just giving us a slight increase to everything. The averages are now touching 50 with 1% lows that are in the mid 30s, so it's just a small bump in everything. Overall, it's a welcome bump, but the temperatures do increase pretty significantly. We are now in the 80s of degrees instead of just hovering right around 60. So that is a pretty substantial increase in terms of temperature versus the level of increase that we're getting in terms of FPS. I don't know if it's going to end up being worth it for you. For me personally, I don't really think it's too worth it, though this was specifically a relatively hot day here. If it was a little cooler, then it would have been perfectly fine, but the fact that it was touching into the 80s really is just not something that I would want to deal with. But I can understand if you're willing to tough it out just to maximize the smoothness that you're going to get out of the game. But it's just really going to be one of those things where I personally don't think it's worth sacrificing your hardware like that. And overall, the game is going to just be playable at both the 25 watts and the 15 watts. So I would just say stick to 15 watts, but really it's all up to your personal preference. But anyways, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.